Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I thought that we would go through a few of the bearded dragon care mistakes that I feel I see are quite common. I have a little list on my phone. The big man is currently sat in my lap. He was on my shoulder, but he was blatantly going to make a jump for this plant. And I'm not having that happen today. So he is happily kind of splayed out on my lap, chilling. And we're going to go through some of the common bearded dragon mistakes that I see a lot on YouTube and on the internet in general. Now, first things first, if you are looking to get one of these animals, a bearded dragon, a crested gecko, any kind of exotic pet, I think it's really important to do your research properly. I will link a video up here on the things that I think you need to know before you get any exotic pet. So if you're interested in that, then do go give it a look. And yeah, let's get on with the video. The first thing I see people doing is, frozen or freeze-dried insects. Now, this is kind of more related to bearded dragons. I know that most people who have snakes do frozen thawed, and that is fine. When it comes to bearded dragons, other kind of animals, I do honestly feel like frozen or like the kind of canned insects are just not good enough. It's really easy to breed your own insects, and if you're buying in bulk, then it's quite easy to keep and purchase at a reasonable price live insects that you can also gut load to make sure that the insects you are feeding your bearded dragon or other similar animal are the best kind of source of nutrition for your pet. These freeze-dried insects are old and not very enriching for them either, because they don't move around, they can't chase them, they don't kind of provide as much nutritional benefit as feeding live food. I know some of you may be thinking, oh, I don't want to touch it, or they move around, or I don't like that. If you are someone that just cannot deal with bugs, then you should not be getting an animal that's diet requires bugs. It's as simple as that. When you are looking at getting exotic pets, particularly if you're looking at things like reptiles, you're either going to have to deal with bugs or you're going to have to deal with mice. You know, the majority of reptiles eat some form of live food, so it's, you know what you're getting yourself into, and if you're going to get something like this, then you know that that's something that you're going to have to deal with. Getting frozen or like freeze-dried insects is just not good enough. It doesn't provide as much nutritional value, and it also doesn't provide the enrichment for your animal that chasing a bug around its tank or whatever is going to provide. So you're really missing out, and they're missing out, and it's just not something that you should be doing on a regular basis. I understand if it's like an emergency thing, then fine, but really you want to be trying to give your bearded dragon, and in fact other animals, the best kind of nutrition that you can provide for them, and freeze-dried insects and stuff, they're just not where it's at. Related to this is something else that I see, and I don't know why they even sell them. Like, maybe if you're going away on holiday or something, I can kind of understand, but you should be feeding your bearded dragons a mixture of live insects that they can chase around, that are real live insects, and greens, fruit and veg. That is just what they need. You can buy these pellets, and it's something that I see new owners that kind of just mainly buy on a whim, think it's fine to buy them the pellets, or in fact parents that don't really know what they're doing, that want to get their kid a cool pet. It seems to be one of those things where because it's easy and you can buy it at the store along with all the other things you'll be recommended that probably won't be appropriate for the animal that you're buying. It's one of those things that I feel like people that are lazy buy them without knowing that actually they're not that great for your bearded dragon. They're often really high in fat, or they have an awful lot of sugar in them. They're not good for your dragon. don't give them pellets. I understand if you are having to leave your dragon all day, or maybe you're going to be away overnight or something, that maybe as an emergency thing that might be a good idea. But generally speaking, pellets are awful for them. They're not good. They do not provide the right nutrition for your wonderful little bug, and why would you not want to give them the best that you can offer them, which is a varied diet of greens, fruit, veg and live insects. I have made a video for you, I will link it up here, on bearded dragon diets and all the supplements and stuff that you can give them. Pellets as well as freeze-dried insects, just don't do it, no. This should be a fairly obvious one, and if you've done all the research listed in this video that I will also link up here for you, then you should know. But tropical climates for bearded dragons, these guys originate from Australia. It is a kind of arid environment. They get a bit of rain, it's dry most of the time, they cannot cope with very high humidity, it's not good for them. They are not lizards that thrive in a tropical environment, and they can definitely be given respiratory infections by high humidity of a tropical environment. So you should know where they come from, you should know the right temperatures, heating, lighting before you buy these guys. You should know what kind of substrate they need to be on, or the options that you have for substrate, and you should know that they do not come from a tropical environment at all. These are basics that you should know before you even consider getting one of these guys. They are precious little babies, and we do not want to be torturing them by putting them in completely the wrong habitat. It's just not good for them. It will make your dragon really sick, it could result in death. If you're doing the proper research, that is like a basic bit of knowledge that you should know before you're getting one of these guys and bringing them home. This may be controversial, but water bowls in tanks. I have actually seen complaints made by people that don't know anything about reptiles, about when bearded dragons don't have like water bowls in their tanks. Members of the public maybe that don't have reptiles, they see an animal in a glass enclosure and they think, oh my god, it's not even got any water, and they think that the reptile place that is you know, keeping these guys and wanting to sell them, or indeed like chain pet stores, are not giving them the proper care. Some people do keep water bowls in their dragon's enclosure. I personally don't do that, and I don't personally think it's a brilliant idea. I'm a fan of misting his food, making sure he has at least a couple of baths a week, and if I need to, giving him a very fine couple of mist squirts in the morning. I think that if you have a water bowl in a tank, especially when you've got a smaller tank, and the humidity can rise quite quickly, I do honestly think that it is better to not have one. These guys will get a lot of their hydration from bathing them, misting as I suggested, and also if you give their veggies and stuff a good squirt. A lot of these veggies already have a lot of water content, so Gary gets a lot of his kind of hydration from eating his greens, and also the bugs that he eats and all that kind of stuff. And I think that having a water bowl in his enclosure would raise the humidity too much for my liking. And because reptiles can be prone to respiratory infections, which can be costly and also dangerous for your animal, and can get quite bad quite quickly, it's just not something that I personally would ever risk. It's of course a personal choice, but my preference is to make sure that his humidity is at a good level by not having this in the tank. I don't think it's necessary. I haven't seen many dragons kind of go for a water bowl. I bathe him sort of 2 to 3 times a week. He drinks a lot of the water in there, and he gets a lot of his hydration from his veggies and stuff as well. So if they're eating their greens and things, it's nothing to worry about. And as you can see, he is not dehydrated, he's not in an absolute state, he is in very good nick. Are you? Yes. The next mistake that I see new beardie owners making is housing dragons together. I made a whole video on this. I personally think it's a really awful idea. I think it's risky. They're a solitary animal. They don't pair up and live happily ever after. and the people that never have any problems with this, I would say, are the exception and not the rule. You cannot keep an eye on your dragons 24 hours a day. Your dragons could be paired up and live happily ever after for 10 years, and then suddenly one could gouge the other one's eye out and they could get into a fight. It is honestly just not worth the risk. Females can be just as territorial as males. They are solitary creatures. They pair up for mating and then they fuck off again. Just don't do it. It's really not worth the risk. I know that there are probably people that disagree with me, and I know that when you're getting a new animal, it's one of those things where you're like, oh, I want to get a pair and they'll be friends forever and all this kind of stuff. These guys don't see it like that. They see that friend as a competition for the best basking spot, the most food, who's going to catch that insect first, the best place to kind of sit themselves in the tank. Especially if you have a size differentiation or an age differentiation between the two that you're putting in together. It's a dangerous idea, and you are giving the smaller one a very high chance of getting bullied. And they will. These guys will fight each other, and there can be some horrendous injuries. As I said, I did make a video on it already. There is a video on cohabiting dragons and why I don't think it's good, and it does contain some kind of pictures and stuff for you to have a look at. So if you are considering doing this, or in fact you do it already, then yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea, and I think it's definitely a newbie mistake. The last thing I have to talk about is housing different species together. I don't know how people do not do their research to the point where I have actually seen bearded dragons in with leopard geckos. A bearded dragon will eat a leopard gecko. You know, these guys don't even recognise that their babies that have come out of their own eggs are their babies. They don't have that like familial ability, and these dragons have been known to eat smaller lizards, pinky mice, things like that. Not only is it just really awful to put something smaller or a different species in together because they will fight each other, but they also completely require different care requirements. Just because both things are a lizard doesn't mean that they should ever live together at all. It can be really dangerous for both the animals involved, and as I say, they will fight. They don't belong together. The majority of reptiles are solitary animals, and they require different care and husbandry. So do not be putting a bearded dragon in with a leopard gecko, or in with a snake, or, you know, one or other of the animals. Both animals are going to be extremely stressed by it. One or other of the animals will probably end up dead. One will eat the other. It's just a really awful idea. If you are getting a bearded dragon, get a bearded dragon and don't put it in with anything else, including another bearded dragon. I hope that this video has been helpful for you and that you've enjoyed hearing about the kind of new beardie owner mistakes. I do honestly think that most people who do these things, even though I think it's kind of basic knowledge and is really silly, I don't think anyone ever generally sets out to harm their animal or put their animal in harm's way or make their life a misery. But I do think there definitely needs to be more research before we go and buy things. And not just research as in like a 5-minute Google. I think research done from various different sources, various different people maybe that own these guys already, and yeah, you never stop learning. I'm still learning, and I've had Gary for nearly 2 years now. I had been interested in bearded dragons for at least 2 or 3 years before that. And I'm still doing my research on things that maybe are new, or things I could improve, or things I want to change. And these things are really important to keep up on as well. So I hope this video has been helpful for you if you are thinking about getting a bearded dragon or you're a new owner. For those of you that are not new here or don't have bearded dragons, I hope you found this interesting anyway. If you have anything to add, then always leave it in the comments down below. Happy to have discussions or debates with you guys if you disagree with anything I've said, or maybe you already own a bearded dragon and you disagree with some of the things that I've said here. That's absolutely fine, as long as you keep it respectful in the comments. I will happily have the discussion with you. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are, and I will see you in the next one with this little monkey. Bye!